Okay, it's 2020, right? And you think that there's a whole array of cameras out there that you could use for streaming. Well, you're not wrong. There are. There's loads of them. But how many of them are affordable? How many of them are, cheap enough that your average small streamer is going to be able to go out, grab one, and then use that for streaming? Not very many. There's only a few hand-picked small number of cameras out there that meet the criteria that you need for a streaming camera, but come at that budget price that makes it affordable for a small streamer to go out and buy. And out of all of those, there's that one camera that still stands out today as a streaming camera of choice for streamers all over the world. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Guys, today's video is sponsored by GMRware. GMRware are a fantastic gamer clothing and accessories company that do high quality gamer clothing and accessories for gamers. They have a fantastic collection of gamer streetwear that's very fashionable and ranges from hoodies to t-shirts and even bags and hats. Guys, make sure you go check them out at www.gmrware.com, and if you want a 10% discount, then make sure you use code KAI24 at checkout, or you can hit the link down in the description box below to get the code automatically applied to your basket. So of course the camera that I'm referring to is this, the Sony A5100. This thing came out in 2014, I think, and to this day is probably still the best camera for streaming. Like I said, there's a large range of really high quality, very good DSLR mirrorless cameras out there that you can use not just for streaming, but all of your content creation needs. So what is it that makes the A5100 stand out amongst all of those cameras, and why is it that people still flock to this camera as the camera of choice for streaming? Now, I just want to get out there that I'm talking about the small streamers, the streamers who have just upgraded or are looking to upgrade from using a webcam to using an actual camera to improve the quality of their streams. If you're like me and you've been using a webcam for a while and have been looking to upgrade to using a DSLR mirrorless camera, then one of the main choices and one of the kind of primary choices that most streamers now go towards is the A5100, despite it being like over 6 years old now. And there's several reasons, and that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to talk about why the A5100 still stands out in 2020 as one of the best streaming cameras that money can buy. Guys, make sure you don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It means a lot that you guys are watching and enjoying my channel. Do make sure that you hit that subscribe button, and also go over and follow me on Twitch. It means a lot. I stream several times a week. All the links for my Twitch, other social medias, my gear, all down in the description box below, so go check it out. Now, the first thing about this camera that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to put it down actually. So the first thing about this camera that I'm going to talk about is the functionality of it. And by functionality, I'm just going to talk about the basics, use of the camera, not just as a camera itself, but for the purposes of streaming. So firstly, it's a very easy to use camera. Straight out of the box, you can just use it to start recording or taking photos or whatever else you want to use it for. But now we're going to talk about streaming. So apart from it just being a very easy camera to use straight out of the box, one of the things that makes it stand out amongst, well, not stand out, but one of the things that it has that a lot of cameras have and is very essential, I think, for streaming or even vlogging or kind of content creation is this. It's a flip-up screen, okay, or a self-facing screen. Any streaming camera, any vlogging camera should have one of these flip-up screens. And the reason behind that is it just makes it a heck of a lot easier to kind of adjust your focus, to kind of see what you're doing, look at the lighting that the camera is picking up, see yourself while you're streaming. I know the software that you're using, OBS, Streamlabs, whatever it is you're using, is probably going to let you do that as well. But in terms of even just general content creation and just the novelty of having it there and knowing where to look when you're talking to the camera by having, that pop-up screen is very helpful. If you're using it as a streaming camera and you're kind of using it as a just chatting camera, you're going to be looking at the camera. You're going to be talking to your chat directly at the camera. And at that point, you're not going to be looking at your kind of preview on OBS or anything. You're going to be looking directly at this thing. And having this screen basically makes that a lot easier, because then you can see whether you're in focus, whether you're in shot or not, what you're kind of in the center of the camera, or, where you're looking, is that in the correct angle, all of that kind of nonsense. So that makes basically life a heck of a lot easier. So the next thing a good streaming camera needs, and that this camera has, is this. an interchangeable lens. Now, one of the biggest things that improves your image quality when you're using a camera isn't the camera itself, it's the lens. The better the lens, the better image you're going to get. And you've got a whole range of different lenses that can be used for kind of different things. You can go online, pick up just the body of this, and then pick out a good lens that you think is going to be suitable for your streaming and utilize that instead of just using the stock lens. The stock lens is good enough, but if you want to really up your game as a streamer and you want that high quality stream and the high quality image of yourself whilst you're streaming, then definitely one of the important things is to be able to pick up a lens that fits onto your camera that can improve the quality of your picture and the quality of your recordings. The next and final kind of two things that your camera needs and that the A5100 has, that a lot of new cameras still don't have, is clean HDMI and unlimited runtime. So the clean HDMI basically means that you've got a HDMI port, like the one right here, and that outputs a clean image into your stream. So none of the info that you see on the camera screen that shows up normally, none of that comes up while you're streaming, and all you see is a clean image. And the unlimited runtime kind of speaks for itself. You know, your camera is not going to shut off halfway through a stream or every half an hour. You're not going to have to keep pressing a button just to make sure that it's still alive and running. That way you can do long streams without worrying that your camera is going to just completely shut off on you. Now, those are obviously just the basic requirements that every streaming camera should have. So why is it significant in the A5100? Well, the fact that this camera came out some 6 years ago and it has these features, and to this day, you know, there are still a lot of cameras that are coming out within the same kind of price bracket that the A5100 was in that don't have these features. I can name a couple to begin with, but that's not the point here. The point is, it's an old camera that still does those things at a very high quality. Now, the next thing is, the camera still has, you know, competitively, a very good image quality. It's got 1080p 60 FPS recording. Yes, it doesn't have 4K. It did come out quite a while ago, so it doesn't have the 4K capability. But while you're streaming, that's not going to make a big difference. If you're using this as a streaming camera, which this is all about, you know, using the camera for your streaming, then you're not going to need 4K. 1080p 60 FPS is more than enough. It will give you a very clean image and a very smooth image for your audience to see. The camera has a 28.2mm APS-C crop sensor, and that basically gives it a slightly larger kind of field of view, a slightly wider field of view than a lot of the kind of same cameras within the same price point. So the image you see is a lot wider, which is very good for shots that you're using for just chatting or your intermission shots. And even whilst you're streaming, you know, you get a nice picture of the wider area. So especially if you've got a good kind of setup in a nice studio room and you want to show off what's in the background or slightly show off what's in the background, then you've got that option. Speaking of image quality, let's compare what the A5100 looks like when you put it up against a high quality streaming webcam. So the webcam this is going to go up against is the Razer Kiyo, only because I've never bought the Logitech C920 or the Logitech Brio, which are two of the best streaming webcams out there, but the Razer Kiyo comes quite close. I mean, it's a very high quality camera. It's got 720p at 60 FPS and 1080p at 30 FPS. So we're going to compare the Razer Kiyo to the A5100 to see how different the two images produced for streaming are. Now the A5100 is being plugged in through a cheap capture card, which outputs at 1080-30, which will mean that the image quality should match that of the output from the Razer Kiyo, which is also at 1080-30, meaning that there's no discrepancies between the kind of frame rate that you're going to see, and that way you get a much clearer comparison of the two, especially when it comes to kind of the movement and the images and everything like that. I've talked about the capture cards and how important they are in a previous video of mine, so definitely go check that out. So you should see the link somewhere up here. I'm not exactly sure what side it's going to turn up on. You get the gist of what I'm saying. So here you can see that the image for the A5100 is clearly much smoother than that for the Razer Kiyo. Like side by side, you can clearly see that the hand movements and the head movements I'm showing are just a heck of a lot smoother in the A5100. And that's all to do with the lens size and the camera itself. The movement for the Razer Kiyo, you can see that it's a lot more jittery. There's a lot of trailing in the hand movements and, you know, just overall, it's not as smooth. Both of these are set at the same kind of lighting and obviously at the same frame rates as well. So you can clearly see that the A5100 is by far superior. And this isn't going to be very different when you compare it to any other webcam. So even something like the Logitech Brio, you're going to have a substantial difference just because of the size of the lens that a camera has. And being a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, the A5100 has a much bigger lens that any webcam is going to be able to have. It takes in more light, it has a wider field of view, and just overall the image quality is going to be far superior. Now moving on to the main thing that makes this camera so attractive to small streamers now is the price. So the one I have here has been kind of borrowed from a friend, but the price points that I've been seeing online, you can grab one of these used for about 280 to 300 pounds. Yeah, that low. Now any other camera that's around the same kind of specs to this, like for example the Canon M200, or any of the new Alpha series cameras which have similar kind of specs, maybe slightly better, none of them come up below 450. I've not seen it online personally, which is what I'm going by. So out of most cameras that do the job, this camera comes in at the absolute cheapest. And why is that important? If you're a small streamer, it's not the most ideal thing to have to go out and buy a really expensive camera just to upgrade the kind of quality of your stream. As a small streamer, you're probably not making a lot from subs and bits and all of that. So you're probably not going to be able to afford to buy a camera using the funds that you're making from streaming. And even if you are, what's the need? You know, it's unnecessary. Unless whatever you're getting is going to substantially improve the quality of your stream, it's not necessary to get it. However, for the novelty of improving kind of the image quality, and if you are the kind of streamer who does a lot of just chatting and has intermission screens where you're talking to your chat a lot, and you want a good quality camera to make you look good in those streams, then definitely upgrading is a very good option. Because the webcam's just not going to give you the same kind of quality that a proper DSLR or a mirrorless camera is going to give you. And if you want to go and do that, you don't want to have to spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds or dollars just to improve that quality of your stream. That's where the A5100 is still the best camera, in my opinion, to get if you're a small streamer who wants to upgrade. It has all the functionality that you need, it's got all the right features, and it's about £300, 200 to 300 pounds cheaper than the next best thing. You don't need to get something more than that. That's, you know, way more expensive just for the novelty of it, especially if you're just a small streamer who's going to use the camera for nothing but streaming. If you're going to use it for other stuff like content creation, YouTube videos, and you need something slightly fancier with a higher quality image output, then, you know, by all means, but that's a topic for another day. I hope what I've said is useful to you guys today. My aim is to make sure that small streamers like myself are not making mistakes and kind of spending and wasting money on unnecessary gear and equipment that they don't need. However, I want to give the best advice to all the small streamers, just like myself, because I'm not a big streamer or a big content creator, but I want to give what's little advice from what I've learned to you guys so that you're not making mistakes, and that way we can all support each other and make sure that we're producing the best kind of content that we can with what we have. That being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please do make sure you hit that subscribe button. It means a lot, and obviously it would help me get to that 1,000 subscribers much faster, and also help me get monetized so that maybe I can afford an even better camera to stream with. Until next time, guys, this is Kai24 signing out. He just wants to slam the keyboard. That's what he wants to do. Alright guys, if you don't give me subscribers after me showing you the cutest baby in the world, then you guys are heartless. Absolutely heartless. Come on. Hello. Look, who's that baby? Oh. What's going on? Are you shy? You're not shy. Lies. So many lies.